Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. And Dick is one of the most famous and prolific of science fiction novelists and writers in general, with plenty of short stories under his belt as well. And this story is a giant concept what if. What if we lost World War II and then the Japanese occupied the western United States and the Nazis occupied the eastern United States? And this had a 4-season run as a show on Amazon. And going back and reading this book, which is about 275 pages, it's very interesting to see some of the characters that were in the show and what else. There's so much added into the show, but here I feel like there's certain characters that are particularly interesting that I enjoyed spending time with, that I felt particularly compelling, especially looking at one of the Japanese characters that you spend a decent amount of time with. I do feel like the biggest shortcoming here as a novel is some of the characters that we're supposed to be spending all this time with, I don't feel like are fully fleshed out or particularly interesting. They all kind of feel like they play a backseat to the concept and the ideas that this novel is trying to portray. And it is such a fascinating, detailed, imaginative take on what the United States would look like if we had lost. And it's a fascinating dystopian nightmare that we get to see come to life in this novel. And you get to see, because, Hitler was the Third Reich, and it fell with him. What if we see post-Hitler, like how we saw in Russia with post-Lenin, and the rise of Stalin? And this is trying to look at, who would have come in and filled that gap and rose up to the occasion for the Nazis. And it's such a fascinating geopolitical fantasy that gets brought to life in this particular book that is fascinating. I was compelled by seeing how this whole world could shake out. And then you have the titular man in the high castle, this Abinson character that's kind of just floating there, who apparently saw our existence, saw our future, and the journey to him, and how this novel does not compromise on what Philip K. Dick does as a storyteller, which is never really giving you the nice, happy, or even purely satisfying ending, and just kind of sometimes ripping that rug out from under you. And this novel does that, I feel like. At least that's how I felt when I finished reading the final chapter of this book. And this story, there's a lot of philosophical ideas. This is a very dense novel in that way. And just the world building is fascinating. And even if some of the characters aren't as fleshed out or aren't as intriguing as it possibly could be, that allow us to really connect on a very personal level, this is such a fascinating experiment that Dick was able to really make come to life in an engaging and engrossing novel that won the Hugo Award and has had a legacy ever since. And like I said, was compelling enough to put it on Amazon. And how this story all plays out leaves a lot to be interpreted and a lot to be thought about. And in the end, it's a pretty fascinating journey that I definitely would recommend. But those are my thoughts on The Man in the High Castle. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some books. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.